Let's dive into this time force hypothesis. It's a pretty wild idea, right? Saying that everything in the universe comes from one single vibrating energy field, not a bunch of separate particles and forces, but just waves.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is how it tries to connect, like bring together quantum mechanics, the science of the super small stuff, and general relativity, which is all about gravity and the universe at large scale.
So it's aiming high, trying to answer the big questions in physics. Can you give us like a crash course on how this time force hypothesis actually works?
Well, the foundation is this idea that everything, truly everything, is energy. Not tiny solid particles, but rather these localized vibrations in this, like, all-encompassing energy field. Imagine, like, a ripple in a pond. But rippling through this four-dimensional fabric of space and time.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Everything is a wave, huh? So then, how does this energy field actually create the universe we experience?
That's where this idea of emergence comes in. It's like, think of a symphony orchestra, right? You have all these individual instruments playing different notes. But when they come together, they make this complex and harmonious piece of music. In the time force hypothesis, it's the unique ways this energy field vibrates and interacts. That creates all the forces, particles, and structures we see.
So gravity, electromagnetism, even matter itself, they're all just expressions of this one underlying energy field.
Exactly. And then there's a third principle at play here, equilibrium. This idea that the universe is constantly seeking balance. And this drive towards equilibrium is shaping everything, from how galaxies cluster together to how energy slowly dissipates over time.
It's like the universe is constantly searching for its center, always adjusting, always rebalancing itself. That's a pretty elegant concept, I gotta say. But if everything is just energy, what about the stuff we actually see and touch? Planets, stars, ourselves?
Right, well, that stuff is still energy, just in a very, very specific and localized form. Think of water, for example. It can be ice, it can be liquid, it can be steam, all different forms of the same H2O molecule. Similarly, matter in the time force hypothesis is just a superstructured and stable form of energy. It emerges from this universal field, but it's still energy at its core.
Okay, so we've got this picture of a universe built completely from a single vibrating energy field. Definitely a radical departure from how we usually think about reality. What are some of the specific ways this hypothesis changes our understanding of the universe?
For one thing, it has the potential to unify those two giants of physics we talked about, quantum mechanics and general relativity. They've been notoriously difficult to reconcile. But the time force hypothesis offers this, bridge between them. It suggests they're both describing different facets of this underlying energy field.
That would be a monumental breakthrough. And you mentioned before that the time force hypothesis has an equation at its heart, kind of like a mathematical blueprint for the universe. Are we ready to tackle that?
Yeah, let's dive into it. Now, I know equations can be kind of intimidating, but we're not going to get bogged down in the nitty-gritty math. Instead, we'll focus on the concepts that each term in the equation represents and how they paint a picture of the universe according to the time force hypothesis.
Sounds good to me. I'm all ears. What does this equation of everything look like?
Okay, brace yourself. Here it is. The cheese and tack plus grooves plus grew plus bruises grinny. I know, it looks complicated, but it's surprisingly elegant in its simplicity.
All right, I'll take your word for the elegant part. Can you break down each term for us?
Absolutely. So this first term, this is all about wave propagation. Basically, it describes how energy moves as waves through this universal field, kind of like how sound waves travel through the air. It's the driving force behind the universe's constant motion and change.
So first term is telling us the universe is constantly in motion, constantly rippling with energy.
Exactly. Now, the second term, onwards, this represents what we call the damping factor. It's about the universe's tendency towards equilibrium. It's the reason things cool down, why stars eventually burn out, even why the universe itself is expanding.
So the damping factor is like a cosmic brake, slowing things down, keeping the energy from spiraling out of control.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And finally, we have a third term, otters. This one's a bit more complex, but essentially it describes how energy interacts with itself, creating those intricate patterns and structures we see throughout the universe. Think of it like combining ingredients in a recipe. They interact with each other to create these complex flavors.
So the third term is like the spice of the universe, adding all the complexity and variety we see. It's amazing to think that a single equation could capture all of that.
It really is. And what's even more remarkable is how this equation can help us understand some of the most bizarre phenomena in physics. Have you ever heard of wave-particle duality?
Oh yeah, that's where particles like electrons act like waves sometimes. One of those quantum mysteries that always makes my head spin.
Exactly. Well, the time force hypothesis offers a pretty straightforward explanation. Particles are always waves, inherently. It's just that when we try to observe them, they seem to collapse into this more particle-like state.
So it's not that they're flipping back and forth, they're always waves. But our active observation changes how they appear to us. That's fascinating.
It is, and that's just one example. The time force hypothesis also provides insights into the fractal nature of the universe.
Wait, fractals, like those crazy patterns that repeat themselves at different scales, what do those have to do with the time force hypothesis?
Well, the time force equation naturally creates this self-similarity, this recurring pattern of energy structures. It could explain why we see similar fractal designs in things as small as snowflakes and as large as galaxies.
You're telling me a tiny snowflake and a giant spiral galaxy could be governed by the same underlying principles? That's mind-blowing. I can't wait to see what other mysteries this time force hypothesis might unlock.
Me too. There's a whole lot more to explore, especially when it comes to the nature of time and the possibility of parallel universes.
That's right. We've only just scratched the surface here. Be sure to join us for part 2 as our deep dive, where we'll venture even further into the fascinating world of the time force hypothesis. Okay, so we've covered some of the basics of the time force hypothesis. Everything is energy, the universe is all about balance. And we even took a crack at that mind-bending equation. Now I'm ready for the really, out there stuff. Let's talk about time.
Yeah, time is definitely where the time force hypothesis really starts to challenge our everyday understanding of things. Instead of this idea of time flowing like a river, right? It proposes that time is more like a frozen landscape, all moments, past, present, and future, all existing at the same time.
Whoa, hold on. You're saying the future is already out there, like set in stone? Doesn't that mean we don't have free will?
It's a question that's been debated for centuries, really, and the time force hypothesis adds a whole new layer to it. Imagine like a loaf of bread. Each slice represents a moment in time. The whole loaf exists, right? But you experience it one slice at a time. That's essentially the block universe idea. Our consciousness is moving through this pre-existing structure, creating the illusion of time flowing.
Okay, so like a movie reel, the frames are all there, but we only experience the story as it plays out in sequence. But if all those moments already exist, do our choices even matter?
It's not quite that simple. Think about it this way. Even if the entire route of a road trip is planned out, you still choose which car to drive, what music to listen to, who you talk to along the way. Those choices shape your experience of the journey, even if the final destination is fixed. In a similar way, our choices influence how we navigate the block universe.
Okay, so maybe I'm not just a passenger on this cosmic road trip after all, but if we're talking about navigating the block universe, doesn't that kind of open the door to time travel? Like, could we jump between those pre-existing slices of time?
Yeah, the time force hypothesis definitely doesn't rule out the possibility of time travel. If we could figure out how to understand and manipulate this underlying energy field, we might be able to shift our consciousness to different points within the block universe.
So instead of a time machine, we'd need something more like a time surfer, riding the waves of the time force field. But what about all the paradoxes? Like if you change the past, wouldn't it unravel the present?
That's where the time force hypothesis really forces us to rethink those classic time travel paradoxes. Remember, if all moments coexist, changing the past might simply lead to a different branch of the block universe, a parallel reality with a slightly altered history.
Whoa, wait, parallel universes now?
The time force hypothesis kind of naturally leads to this idea of multiple universes. Imagine each choice creating a new branch in the block universe, a separate reality where a different outcome plays out.
Okay, my head is officially spinning. Countless versions of ourselves out there living different lives based on different choices. It's a lot to process. But if these parallel universes exist, could we ever interact with them?
Well, the time force hypothesis suggests that these parallel universes could be more than just like theoretical concepts. Have you ever heard of the Mandela effect, where people share these very vivid memories of events that seemingly never happened in our timeline?
You're not saying those are glimpses into parallel universes, are you?
It's a fascinating possibility. Maybe under certain conditions, these parallel realities can kind of bleed through, creating these echoes or overlaps in our perception. Or perhaps advanced civilizations have figured out how to navigate between these realities, which could explain some of those stories we hear about, vanishing islands or technologies that seem way ahead of their time.
All right, so we've gone from time travel to parallel universes. What about all this talk about ancient civilizations and the time force field? Where does that fit in?
It might not be as far-fetched as it sounds. Think about it. Ancient cultures all over the world, they've talked about this universal life force, this energy that connects everything. Concepts like prana in India, ki in China, or the Hermetic principle of as above, so below.
Are you saying that these ancient ideas were like hinting at the same energy field that the time force hypothesis describes?
It's a compelling connection. Ancient cultures often use symbols and metaphors to convey complex ideas, like look at their fascination with sacred geometry, these recurring patterns like the Fibonacci sequence. Could this be a reflection of their intuitive understanding of how this energy field organizes itself?
So those ancient pyramids and temples, are you suggesting they were built with an understanding of this time force field, this knowledge that we're only just now rediscovering?
Maybe their understanding wasn't based on equations and scientific instruments like ours, but on observation, intuition, and a deep connection to nature. The time force hypothesis really encourages us to re-examine those ancient traditions with a fresh perspective.
That's definitely a thought-provoking way to look at it. It makes you wonder what knowledge might have been lost over the centuries. But if this time force field is so fundamental, so all-encompassing, where does our own consciousness fit in? Are we just waves in this cosmic ocean too?
Consciousness is one of the most profound mysteries that the time force hypothesis tries to address. If everything arises from this energy field, then consciousness must be an aspect of it, not something separate.
So you're saying our thoughts and feelings are literally vibrations in this time force field?
Exactly. Think of your brain as like a highly complex instrument, tuned to resonate with this field. Your thoughts, emotions, memories, your sense of self, they're all patterns of vibration within this universal energy field.
So instead of a physical brain generating consciousness, it's more like our brains are receiving and interpreting information from this field. That's wild. But if that's true, wouldn't that suggest some pretty incredible possibilities?
It does. If consciousness is inherently tied to the time force field,
Yeah.
then it might not be limited to our physical bodies. Think about phenomena like telepathy, precognition, out-of-body experiences.
Wait, are you suggesting those experiences could be explained by accessing information or connecting with other consciousnesses within this field?
The time force hypothesis definitely opens up those possibilities for exploration. It challenges us to really expand our understanding of what consciousness is
Yeah.
and how it interacts with the universe around us.
This is getting pretty deep. We've covered a lot of ground here. Time as a landscape, parallel universes, ancient wisdom, and now the idea that our consciousness is woven into this time force field.
And we're not done yet. The time force hypothesis has some profound implications for how we understand humanity's place in the universe and our potential for the future.
That's right. Be sure to join us for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore those implications and what the time force hypothesis might mean for the future of humanity. So we've gone deep down the rabbit hole with this time force hypothesis, a universe built from one energy field, time as a landscape, parallel realities, even our consciousness being part of this, like cosmic web. What does it all mean for us, for humanity?
Well, the time force hypothesis really makes us rethink our place in the universe. It suggests we're not just these isolated beings on a tiny planet, but actually integral parts of this, like massive interconnected web of energy and consciousness.
So we're not just watching the universe play out, but actively participating in it, shaping it, and being shaped by this time force field.
Exactly. Every thought we have, every action we take, every connection we make, it all creates these ripples in this field. It's a huge shift in perspective, moving away from separation to interconnectedness.
That interconnectedness, it's really resonating with me. It seems to line up with a lot of spiritual and philosophical traditions, right? Those that emphasize unity and compassion.
Absolutely. The time force hypothesis, it kind of bridges that gap between science and spirituality. It suggests this deeper level of reality that connects us all. It encourages us to re-examine our relationships with each other, with the planet, with the universe as a whole.
It is a beautiful and inspiring vision. But if we're all connected through this energy field, does that mean we're also responsible for each other's well-being?
It definitely raises questions about responsibility and ethics. If our thoughts and actions ripple through this field, we have a profound impact on the world around us, whether we're aware of it or not.
It's a lot to think about, but it also feels empowering. If we learn to work with this time force field consciously, could we actually create positive change on a global scale?
That's the exciting part. Imagine harnessing this energy field
Yeah.
to heal ourselves, to solve some of those global challenges we face, to even evolve our consciousness to a higher level. The time force hypothesis suggests these things might be possible.
Wow, now that's getting my imagination going. But how do we even start to harness this time force field? It sounds a bit like science fiction, to be honest.
Well, remember, our understanding of the universe is always evolving. What seems impossible today might be commonplace tomorrow. The time force hypothesis, it's a starting point, a framework for exploring new possibilities. It challenges us to ask new questions, develop new technologies, expand our awareness.
So what can our listeners do if they want to learn more about the time force hypothesis, or even contribute to its development?
The most important thing is to stay curious and keep an open mind. Dive into the research, explore the concepts. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Connect with others who are interested in these ideas. Share your insights and perspectives. The time force hypothesis is a journey of discovery, and we need lots of different voices and perspectives to unlock its full potential. That's a great message to end on. Our deep dive into the time force hypothesis has taken us from the tiniest particles to the vastness of the cosmos, from ancient wisdom to the future of humanity. It's been an incredible journey.
It's a journey that's just beginning. The time force hypothesis invites us to embrace wonder, to challenge what we think we know, and explore the infinite possibilities that lie within ourselves and the universe around us.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it sparked your curiosity and inspired you to keep exploring the mysteries of the universe and our place within it. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep that sense of wonder alive.